Rusty, I'm missing Kiss of the Spider-Woman for this, you know.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, I don't know. I've never seen the film. I've always kind of been curious about it. And it's playing at a theater basically across the street from me, the $1 Million Theater in downtown LA. But the seats are pretty uncomfortable, so I'm glad that I'm missing it.
How much were the tickets?
Well, I consider it to have been a good cause, the LA Conservatory that I donated to. So, but they were like $20.
That's not bad.
But instead we're here on Archers of Horror. On this podcast, we watch every horror release from Arrow Video. And this week, we've got Shivers.
Can I start off by saying that this feels a bit like deja vu, if you know what I mean?
Really?
But yes.
I have no idea what you mean. Shivers was the not the first film by David Cronenberg, but the first one that anyone really is going to want to watch.
Yes.
And I'll just say that I love this movie.
I love the movie as well. So we're both in agreement.
We don't have to talk about David Cronenberg. Everyone knows who he is. And there's other podcasts that could do a better overview of his career and all that stuff. But I'll just say that when I was first really getting into movies in like my mid-teens, Cronenberg is like someone that you try to get into, kind of like film geek 101. And I kind of forced it. I don't think I really understood his movies, especially not like Dead Ringers and stuff. But I've recently been on a Cronenberg rediscovery tour. I don't know why I call it a tour, but and I love.
Where are you traveling? Where are you going around?
Just to Canada, and I love Cronenberg's work, and this is a great movie.
Yes, it's true. Day-to-day living becomes a luxury cruise when you've made your home at Starliner Tower Apartments.
Produced by Ivan Reitman.
Yeah,
who also was the music supervisor.
Oh, I did not know that. That's pretty interesting. How so, though? Explain to me what he did.
I'm going to have to assume he was the music supervisor. I don't know how much more deep you want me to get on it.
Was there much music in the movie?
There's, I think, a cool kind of discordant score that plays throughout.
Okay. So you say his talents did a good job.
Yeah, did a great job. And I really enjoyed him in the special features of this Arrow Blu-ray release.
Wait, was he in the special features? I thought it was just a brief mention of him.
Well, no, you fell asleep during the Canadian TV show.
Yes,
and he's on that. Always smiling.
I noticed that every interview with Ivan Reitman, he's always smiling.
If you had his life, you'd be grinning too. Can you sum up the story of this movie in one sentence or less?
In one sentence or less? Basically, parasites get loose in an apartment complex and turns everyone into a sexual deviant.
It's basically like horny zombies.
It really is. But it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah. In some ways, it's a very unsexy Gremlins 2. Or you could also consider it Die Hard, except that Hans Gruber is a parasite.
I like that analogy. I would never have thought of that.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Did you think this movie was sexy?
Absolutely not. It was.
I also did not think that.
No, I don't know where you would find. The only thing that people could see as sexy was like the striptease by the nurse.
Yeah.
And if talking about the character that she was stripping for, that takes the sex appeal right out of it.
Yeah, she was stripping for the Dr. St. Luke.
Roger St. Luke, yeah.
Roger St. Luke, played by Paul Hammond. Was that his name?
Hampton. But I didn't really know him from much. He looked like a guy that was very familiar, that he should have been in more films as like a background character. Like he almost had like a Paul Lynde quality to him. But I did look up his IMDb just to have more talking points. And the only films I really recognized was Winners Take All and The Thing Called Love. And I don't know if you ever saw that. It's not a great film, but Samantha Mathis is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, I don't know about you, but did you have a big crush on her?
No.
Really? Not Samantha Mathis?
No, I'm more of a Samantha Morton guy.
Who's Samantha Morton?
She is either Scottish, Irish, or British.
Oh, you love the Scottish, Irish, or British girls.
I do. Let's just leave it at that. Most people will probably know who Samantha Morton is.
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
Let's moving forward. So Paul Hampton.
Paul Hampton. Yeah, I looked at his IMDb as well, and his bio was kind of funny. It said a bit of a 0 in general. His acting was very weird because it didn't seem like acting, and it was kind of awkward in a way that you would think is kind of stylized, but I don't know that it was intentional, but it was very, very strange.
Now, I know you mentioned off air about his posture during some scenes. Would you like to touch on that again?
The scene with a big exposition scene between him and the other doctor where the guy's eating a pickle.
Yes, we're going to talk about that, but
his posture in that scene is very weird. And also his sweater is the same color as the bookcase behind him. Bit of a weird choice.
You always notice things like that. It always stands out to you.
I do. If someone's sweater is blending into the background of a scene, you can bet that I'll be pointing it out.
Now, isn't me? I mean, he certainly didn't have the acumen to be a doctor in the film, but what about as a lead? How did you feel about that?
Nah, he should not have been a lead. When they talk about how someday they're going to make invisibility real by having like the light curve around items, that's what he was. The light was just curving around him. I just looking at the bookshelf. I was like, wait a second. I think there's a man to the left.
They're keeping you up? You're bored, right? To you, organ transplant is just yesterday's kishkas, right?
I watched this movie 3 times, Rusty. 3 times.
You should know it inside and out.
I don't. The first time I watched this movie, I must admit that I was on mushrooms. They're actually incredibly mild, except you don't want to watch this film on mushrooms. When they were really kicking in, for some reason, I've never found that mushrooms make you hungry, but I was eating a veggie breakfast burrito, and I wrote in my notes, trying to eat. The guy fished thing out of trash. Another guy threw up after spousal rape. People came out of elevator, and then they ate a man. But it was just a series of upsetting scenes.
Wait, did you say they and ate a man or fuck ate? What did
fuck ate? Fuck ate. It's a new term that this film inspires.
They definitely did fuck ate that guy, even though he was the one that was the infected.
This movie has so many classic scenes, like so many times they encountered this parasite, which the third time I watched it, I was really noting the parasite does a good job. Like Cronenberg does a really good job of tracing the parasite from person to like just geographically around this apartment building. And each time it encounters people, it's always a pretty interesting encounter.
Yes. I mean, definitely by the end too, where it's complete like pandemonium. Like there's this, it's very Kubrickian. Is that the right way to say Kubrickian?
I'd say.
How would you say it?
Kubrickian. Kubrickian. Did I just say it the same way?
You did. Oh my! Are you in the mushrooms again? What is going on?
You know, I've noticed there's 2 recent documentaries one about Stanley Kubrick's driver, one about his longtime assistant. Maybe there could be a third Stanley Kubrick movie about 2 guys who can't pronounce Kubrickian.
I think we're saying it right.
Rusty, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and describe this apartment complex, because it's kind of a unique. The film starts with a slideshow.
Hello.
Which when I was a kid, we had a slide projector, which I think a lot of families did. And
yeah, for vacations, right? Or like,
yep. Yeah, you'd go on vacation, you would take the slides, and then you'd show them to like relatives once. And
that is definitely an outmoded idea of showing people your vacation slide. I mean, not even slides, but photos. Like nobody's into that.
I would say that it's.
When was the last time you looked at somebody's vacation? I mean, obviously with social media, you could look at somebody's pictures, but for the most part,
well, I'd say
it's not like it was an event.
I'd say that you're both incredibly wrong and incredibly right, because.
Thank you. And how dare you?
I would say Instagram is the modern slideshow, and now we're all looking at them.
Yeah, but it's not an event. It's like a passing thing from like if you're sitting and waiting somewhere, you look at Instagram and you're looking at what somebody did over the weekend or the past week. But with those things, remember it was like dinner. Like, do you remember going to people's houses for dinner and then you'd like watch the slideshow and it'd be like an hour-long activity?
Oh yeah, and like the person standing up and being like, "Oh, this was the," and there's kind of like a vague burning smell that I always loved. And I remember begging my father, like, put on the slide projector, and he'd be like, "Edward, no one's over. You can't just watch the slides just with no one here." So the film starts with a slideshow, and the narrator
of the Starliner Hotel.
Yeah, the Starliner, not hotel, apartment complex.
Yeah, is it a leasing or a buy? Is it like a co-op, condo-op? What is that?
I was not clear on that because
they never actually said. They just said you can, like, to the first couple. They're like, "Oh, you can move in today," which seems crazy.
Yeah,
that they wouldn't check any of the credentials of the people.
And it seemed like they had a lot of furnished apartments, even though the apartments were all furnished pretty differently.
That is true.
Yeah, so it was kind of portrayed as like a futuristic apartment building, and it is futuristic in the way that it has a doctor's office, which I've never seen.
But how qualified? I mean, I guess it was like portrayed as a huge apartment complex, right?
Yeah,
that it would house enough what's it called, patients for the doctor. But you know what, the other amenity that was weird? Remember they showed the slide of the swimming pool, and they're like, "Oh, houses an Olympic-sized swimming pool." What Olympics was that swimming pool? And Mark Spitz was swimming along across that pool.
Are you saying the pool was too small? Is that your issue?
Oh, it's like somebody's backyard pool.
That is an outrage.
It was like a common pool in somebody's hotel.
We need to kill David Cronenberg.
That is an outrage.
With his last gasps, he'll be like, "This? Why? What? Because of the pool?"
The boasting about an Olympic-sized swimming pool and a tennis court. Although it did have a 9-hole golf course, which was kind of impressive.
Yeah. If I had tennis courts, I'd be a fucking Boris Becker by Friday.
Really, Boris Becker? That's who you want to be?
I don't know who I want to be,
because I don't think he would hold up in this day and age, unless you're talking about then.
I'm talking about then.
Yeah. Did you know that the Starliner Hotel is actually two hotels, or two? I keep saying hotels, apartment buildings that they shot in both of them, but only made it one.
It reminded me of the film High Rise, which I want you to see because, and I should watch it again too, because when I saw High Rise at Fantastic Fest, I was under the mistaken impression that it was the movie Free Fire. So I thought that it was going to be a whole movie that was a shootout, and the whole movie, first hour of it, I was like, is the shooting going to start anytime soon? Which when you see the film, you'll find funny.
If you were expecting gunfire or shootouts.
Yeah. Because I was just like, how are they going to get to a shootout from here? I don't know. But
was there actually any shootouts?
I don't recall that. I just recall an orgy, which is a lot like this film.
Well, that's good. It's got something for everyone.
Russ, the original title of this film was Orgy of the Blood Parasites.
Oh, really? Okay. I know they came from within. That's the one I know it as.
When I first saw this movie, I was in my late teens, and I think I got it from Laserland, if you remember that place.
Yeah.
And it was called They Came From Within, and I didn't like it back then.
Wait, when you got it from Laserland, you bought it as a Laserdisc? Or was it...
I'm going to need you to not question what I said, because I think I'm wrong.
This has to stay in.
We're moving on.
Okay. You know what I did like, though? The narration for the Starliner Hotel, and that was also the character of Merrick. Mm-hmm. He was like the... what was he? He wasn't the concierge. What was he?
I don't know. He's like the building manager.
Yeah, he was like the... Okay. And he was in like every one of Cronenberg's like early works. I guess they were college friends.
Oh, interesting. I was surprised. He's in Rabid. I know that.
Yeah, he's also in Crimes of the Future and Stereo, which are obviously experimental films. But you know what I liked about him? I really liked his look and mannerisms.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Cronenberg didn't keep him around, because when I first saw him, I was like, oh, it's the guy from Videodrome, just because he has like a weird Cronenberg kind of way about him.
Yeah. He also looks like, I know you only watch Criterion films, but if you ever saw Mannequin, he looks like James Spader's character, if you remember that character. Like very prim and proper and like slicked hair and glasses.
Not familiar with the film.
You're missing out. It's a great film.
Who were your other favorite characters?
I really liked, and I don't know if I'm going to say his last name correctly, but Alan Mijakovsky, The
Yes.
Nicholas Tudor, the guy that bred the parasite.
Yeah, he's on the cover of a lot of editions of this.
Yeah. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's a very Cronenberg guy too. He reminds me of the guy from Scanners, but he's probably a better actor.
Yeah, his like demeanor and mannerisms. It's very unsettling to watch. His movements are so creepy. He actually makes like what an infected person. It seems very plausible that that's what it would look like. Like just remember when he walks back into the apartment complex, and he almost looks like the puppeteer character from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Like just that like weird, stiff, rigid movement.
Well, the puppeteer would have been Freddy.
No, but the guy that was making he was the puppeteer, and then Freddy in the nightmare turned him into the puppet.
Oh yeah, shit! My attempt to shame you has gone wrong.
Feeling tongue-tied.
But you know what I like though, as like he's being more and more like transformed by the parasite, he becomes so distant and like separated from reality, where like his interaction with his wife, it's very like unnerving.
Yeah, it's true. And when he is laying in bed looking at his stomach, he's like, "Come on, fella, you and me can do great things together." A bit reminiscent of Brian from Brain Damage, and also one of the first uses of inflatable bladders, which became a big thing in the 80s, especially in American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And special effects artist Joe Blasco,
who you love.
I love and you hate.
I don't hate him. I just think he's a bit of an egomaniac.
He's definitely a blowhard.
You know what? You know what's really funny though in that fucking what is that one special feature? The Parasite Memories, where he's talking about like how he turned down Easy Rider in Night of the Living Dead, and then meanwhile, what was he doing at that time? He's fucking putting makeup on Carol Merrill and Let's Make a Deal, and putting makeup on Julie Andrews. He didn't have big credits.
Yeah, he really did.
The fact that he's I think his biggest work was probably Shivers.
Yeah, I hope Joe's not listening now, but when I checked his IMDb, I was kind of surprised because he really built himself up and not even close to an Ed French level makeup artist.
No. I mean, I did like that. I really liked the effect though, like you said, with the stomach pulsating.
Yeah.
And like because he actually did an effect where the actor sat up, so it didn't look like it was just a body cast. It was actually the bladders on his stomach. So it actually looked very convincing.
Yeah, the effects I would say range from a solid A to a B minus. But the
what about that parasite on a string? That's got to be below a B minus.
That's my B minus because I was going to say that the mood and kind of the feel kind of cancel out. Like things still feel pretty creepy, I think.
He really patted himself on the back though, as well, when he was talking about how he directed some of the parasite scenes.
Yeah.
Like he acted like David Cronenberg couldn't handle like the artifice of making like the parasites come to life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it crawling up the cane with the old French couple, like that seemed like a pretty basic effect.
Yeah, and it was one of the worst effects in the film.
Yeah, I'll give him the bladders. Even I'll give him the neck one when the lesbian kiss scene where they're transferring the parasites via kiss, and you see the around the neck. That was pretty cool because it was actually real. But other than that, like did you like the parasite?
Yeah. I don't know what else it would have. I mean, maybe it could have looked like a little more of something definable rather than just kind of like a red turd. But it was gross in a way that worked.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Almer from Brain Damage, but without a personality. It kind of was just there.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like Almer, like his personality made the parasite more interesting.
His personality carries the whole film.
Yeah, that's true. Hello.
Yeah. I said that just so we could edit in that sample.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
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 But the other thing about Joe Blasco, where he tipped the tip of the hat to himself was with that he created body horror, which he claimed that Alien ripped him off to some degree.
Yeah, so Joe Blasco talks about how for the chest bursting scene, they wanted him to work on it, which I think is another project he turned down for unknown reasons. And he also thought that Dan O'Bannon, he was like, he saw Shivers. I know he saw Shivers. And it's called the Starliner apartment complex. Starliner? Spaceship? I'm like, I don't think that he just got it all from that one film.
Well, the other funny thing is like where you said that he turned down Alien and other iconic films, but he said pretty much the only reason why he signed on to do this film was because Barbara Steele was in it.
Yeah.
Because he admired her career in Black Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was like a queen of early horror films.
We should
he just wanted to work with her.
Yeah, we should mention Barbara Steele was like the big star of the film. Like she was like the name of the film.
Yeah. Who I don't know. Are you familiar with? She looked very familiar, but I don't recognize her. I never saw Black Sunday or like Pit in the Pendulum.
She's in 8.5.
Yeah, that is a weird one. I saw that in her credits.
And she was cut out of Fellini's Casanova.
Really?
But I'll tell you what was not cut out of Fellini's Casanova, and that's Donald Sutherland's penis. A lot. If you want to see his penis and you don't feel like watching Don't Look Now, check out Fellini's Casanova.
I know you have more of a tolerance for Fellini films. Did you like Casanova compared to Don't Look Now? Okay.
No. I mean, I don't dislike it, but it's kind of like a dark period for Fellini, like those mid to late 70s years. Even Amarcord, which a lot of people like, I just can't get into.
I never liked Amarcord.
Mamma mia.
You know who else I liked? Oh, you were talking about characters. I don't know if you liked this character or if you found her memorable, but Alan Mijakovsky's wife, Janet Tudor, I liked her character as well.
Really?
I thought she did a great job. I mean, as far as a character and her portrayal, like the tears in her like convictions, it's pretty good.
And like I'm sure you remember.
I mean, you might want to explain it.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember the anecdote that she was not able to cry on command, and so for one moment when she was crying, they had her cut onions, but then that didn't work a second time. So she asked Cronenberg if he would slap her around, and he did. We're not approving that, but she did ask him to do it.
And to this day, Cronenberg has not stopped slapping women.
No. Oh my God. We just destroyed Cronenberg's career.
But I have to say, when Lynn Lowry, who played the nurse, when she told the story, like she told it in like a fun way almost. Yeah. And seemed like it should have been more like serious. But I guess she seemed pretty happy about everything. So.
Oh yeah. And she's one of the breakout characters of the film. Definitely.
Yeah.
And she really provided an anchor for those late going scenes to keep you engaged, because we know that Dr. St. Luke was not bringing it.
I had to turn. I don't know if you had this problem, but I had to turn subtitles on to understand some of his dialogue.
Well, he's so understated. Like I said, he's just mumbling, and you're like, is this supposed to be very real? Like, is he from like a school of just like super real acting where he's like, people don't enunciate in real life or something?
Yes, Dr. Simon, Detective Sergeant Howard, homicide. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Yeah. You're the one who found the bodies? Yes.
It seems like at times he couldn't learn his line, so like David Cronenberg was like, "Oh, just improvise," and it was just like, "Oh, fuck it. I'm letting this guy improvise."
How about a kiss? Hey, how about a kiss?
Sure.
Oh, that's the best thing I heard all day. How about another kiss?
Listen, do we have some more people on the list?
No.
This movie has a lot of good scenes. What do you think are the breakout scenes of this film, Shivers?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious best scene is the finale.
Yeah, but let's build to that.
I mean, I could talk about the first time we see the parasite. I could talk about Nicholas Tudor. But I really like, just because there's so many questions I have, the Rollo and St. Luke lunch that they have, where they explain the research.
Yeah, they kind of have a scene where they sit down together and explain kind of all the backstory of the parasite.
While sharing pickles.
What was up with the pickles? I don't know. And it was weird because at the end of the scene, St. Luke throws a pickle to the guy and he catches it. And it takes him like 5 seconds to realize it's been half eaten. But surely he should have noticed. That no pickle would be that shape.
Yeah. But he's like, how about the pickle? And then he's like, it's used. Like,
Yeah.
he's so surprised.
Hey, how about the pickle? It's used.
The girl that gets killed in the beginning, Annabelle Brown, is she's patient 0, right?
Yeah, because the guy who I can't believe I forgot his name. Who is the doctor who in the very beginning,
Dr. Hobbs is the doctor.
Yeah, yes, Hobbs. She was his test subject. And his reason for inventing this parasite that turns people into sex-crazed maniacs was that he believed people were becoming too intellectual and too cut off from their emotions. You know, I wish Dr. Hobbs could have lived to see 2018.
Hobbes believed that man is an animal that thinks too much, an over-rational animal that's lost touch with its body and its instincts. How do you like that? In other words, too much brain and not enough guts. So what he came up with to help our guts along was a parasite that's, a combination of aphrodisiac and venereal disease that will hopefully turn the world into one beautiful, mindless orgy.
How come when he he didn't kill Annabelle Brown at this point, but when he was like trying to kill the parasite, how come he took his shirt off?
You got to be in it to win it.
I thought that was kind of humorous, but that scene was very uncomfortable because he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because basically he's fighting this underage girl, although they said that at one point she was 12, and then they changed it to she was 19. So we don't know how old she was, but I hope she was 19.
And this happens during like basically the first scene, which is where the building manager character is showing this couple who have accents and their last name is Sweden. He's showing them around the building and it keeps cutting to this like horrific scene. And it just made me think of like living in an apartment building as I do now. And who knows what's going on in these other apartments. I think my neighbors, well, I don't see my neighbors very much because I travel via the duct system, but
he's like an alien.
Yeah. Come to the coast, have a good time. But I bet my neighbors probably think I'm the weirdest person in the building. But if they came in my apartment, they'd be so pleasantly surprised because it's so nice and everything I do is just so normal.
But so back to Annabelle Brown.
Yes.
I don't know if it was St. Luke or Merrick described Annabelle as very civilized and never complaining. But wasn't she? She was sleeping with like so many random guys in the building, including our parasite person, Nicholas Tudor.
Well, I have a theory.
What's your theory?
We don't really know, do we, when she was infected. So maybe she got infected and was fucking these people.
But if that's the case, how come Nicholas Tudor was the first one to like breed the parasites where they were starting to attack other people? Are they like, expelled from his body? Like, would it have happened to the old guy eventually?
I think it was like me. They had to go through a reclusive period and then they blossomed and came out into the world. And instead of in the form of a podcast, it was in the form of a sex parasite.
So it's like a metamorphosis for the parasite.
Yes, indeed.
So would she have ever been like? Would she have ever like turned into like Nicholas Tudor or like just like a sexual deviant?
Well, I think she was in the scene where Hobbs is like killing her. I think it's because she's become too crazy.
But she was kind of like holding the door shut. Mm-hmm. So if she was truly transformed, she would have been kind of trying to attack him, but she was kind of hiding away. Was it because the parasite had control of her and was kind of like fleeing because it knew the danger?
These are questions we'll ask David Cronenberg right before we kill him.
But anyways, back to that lunch scene though. Mm-hmm. Didn't it seem like when he explained the work, when Rollo, who was played by Joe Silver, and I got a fun fact for you. Did you know that Joe Silver was the voice of the Creep in Creepshow 2?
I thought that was Tom Savini.
It was not Tom Savini. It was Joe Silver.
Oh.
It's time for this boogeyman to boogie. I'll be slaying you, boars and ghouls.
Didn't you hate the Creep, though? Or the voice of the Creep?
Creep was all around a terrible invention.
It really was.
I've got no love for the Creep.
But like, if they're doing groundbreaking research where I think What was it that the parasites were originally supposed to be used for? Or
like for some kind of organ replacement.
Something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a guy with a bad kidney, right? Now you put the bug in him. The bug goes to work on the kidney, dissolves it, the body assimilates it. Now what do you got? You got a perfectly good parasite where you used to have a rotten kidney.
I'll tell you what scene I liked, which I think you did not like. Just a brief moment, but I loved when Nicholas pukes and the parasite falls and hits the old.
Oh, I love that scene.
Oh, really? Yeah, I loved it too. It hits the old lady's clear umbrella, and then the other lady is like, "It's one of those birds. They're always flying into buildings."
It was so sweet that she was concerned about the birds.
Yeah,
it is like such an old person response.
And like the shot of them walking away, and it's like it's in heaven now, whatever it was. And then it just cuts the parasite slithering through the ground. And the shot of them from overhead, it looked like something out of like a Jacques Tati film. Like it was a really interesting shot.
They're always crashing into tall buildings. The windows fool them, you know.
Oh, come along, Olive.
It's such a shame.
But I think the whole build up to that too, with Nicholas dry heaving and then expelling the parasite. That was all like very uncomfortable.
The scene where he's sitting on the floor of his bathroom was very upsetting, and not just because he had a carpeted toilet seat.
No, my grandmother had that.
I know, my Aunt Maureen had that too, and so weird.
You know what's a thing about that? Like where it went the way of the slideshow of vacations. Do you remember? And I guess this was an older person thing back in our childhood. That besides the carpeted toilet seat cover, you would also put carpet around the base of the toilet.
Oh yeah, big time.
You remember being a kid and obviously probably not having the best control or aim, that you just soaked that goddamn carpet on the floor.
Yeah, my aim was better then.
I don't even think you try now.
I actually have to confess something which I shouldn't even say on this podcast. But I when I wake up at night now to pee, I
do it on the floor.
No, I pee into my bathtub.
That's actually normal.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I think I would assume so. It's a much bigger vessel. Wouldn't you want it?
Yeah.
Do you put the light on?
No.
I have a great thing when I lift up my toilet seat up. It has a light that goes on at night.
I do too, but it's not enough to really light the whole way. And just I don't even know why I'm saying this, but I don't know. Lately, when I wake up, a lot of times I have like boners, and to pee with that boner, I need a bigger target.
Wait, are you peeing with the boner, or what are you doing? Are you letting it go down a bit?
No, I'm peeing with the boner. My sleep is so shitty, like I can't risk not being able to get back to sleep. So I just got I got to get it done as quick as possible and get back to bed.
Can I ask you something? Since you said you pee in the bathtub,
yes. This
is a very controversial topic, but are you a peer in the shower?
It just doesn't come up very much. I mean, but I have peed in the shower many times.
Really? I find that's like the first order of business when you get in the shower. I could pee I could pee when I get up, and then as soon as I go in the shower, it's just like might as well do it again.
You know, it's a sick thing I do. When I take showers at the gym.
Well, I hope you're not peeing in there.
I am, and this is at the downtown Ketchum YMCA. So if any of our listeners go there,
you're gonna get banned.
No, but here's the weird part. I know that you're a baby and you can't be naked in front of other men, but I don't care. And so these showers are just open. Like there's a section where you can have a stall, but sometimes I just go in the public section just to have a good time. And so I always inexplicably have to pee when I'm like around other people, but like I'll like kind of try to position it so it looks like just a stream of water, and I'll be like, "Yep, I'm tricking them again." They think this is just, if they look at me closely, they'll just think it's water. But this is pee happening right now.
A little fall of rain can hardly hurt you now.
I have a question for you. I don't know if we just addressed this, but I'll ask you it again.
Mm-hmm.
The host and the parasite, they share like a symbiotic relationship. But do you think as the person like transgresses more, do they retain any of their like memories, or is it just like basic functions?
I think they retain their memories because there was kind of a vampire quality to where they would be cognizant enough of reality to kind of like seduce people, you know? Like,
Right.
I loved the Lynn Lowry speech that she gives to Dr. St. Luke,
Fuck that guy.
where she talks about the dream she had about the old man that seduced her.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's just put that whole speech in right here.
In this dream, I found myself making love to a strange man. Only I'm having trouble, you see, because he's old and dying. And he smells bad, and I find him repulsive. But then he tells me that everything is erotic, that everything is sexual. You know what I mean? He tells me that even old flesh is erotic flesh. That disease is the love of two alien kinds of creatures for each other. That even dying is an act of eroticism. That talking is sexual. That breathing is sexual. That even to physically exist is sexual. And I believe him. And we make love beautifully.
I could imagine someone giving that speech about me.
Is that a good thing?
No. And it was not even the only part I could imagine is the old part, not the seducing part.
Yeah. So you think they do? Because I guess part of it, you're right with that, because Nicholas does call out to his wife and he says, like, I want to make love to you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think once you kind of hit that point where you're completely like overtaken by the parasite, like I guess you regress to your basic primal instincts and you're just very sexual and overcome with your vices.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like being addicted to a drug. Like at first it's fun and then eventually it's just wild and sad.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry for love. I'm hungry for love.
You know what scene, just knowing the context of it, makes me very uncomfortable? Where Nicholas is convulsing and extracting the parasite from his mouth. Knowing how they did that effect makes me so uncomfortable.
How did they do that effect?
Well, the parasite was put in his mouth and basically it still had wires attached to it. So as he was expelling it, the wires were kind of scraping his gums and against his uvula. And as somebody with a gag reflex, that makes me very, very close to dry heaving.
Wow. Yeah.
I would not be, as an actor, I would not be able to do that. I would say cast my head and use an effect like that. Use a prosthetic. Do you remember as a kid though, going to the doctors and if you had like a sore throat and they do the culture for strep throat? Do you remember like they would stick the thing in the back of your throat? That would make me gag like crazy.
Me too.
I had Dr. Vina.
I had Dr. Diamond, who actually I was reminded of him by this film.
Really?
Yeah.
As St. Luke?
No, his colleague. He reminded me of good old Dr. Diamond. He
really, Dr. Rolo?
Yeah.
Did he have a pickle? Was he always
he didn't have a
pickle?
But he was that kind of nice guy. And but I definitely had a bit of a molester vibe.
Nice guy, good molester.
I have known several.
Should I follow that up with a question of whom or no? Or should I move
Well,
along?
we know one, which was, he was arrested and it was
prosecuted, right?
Long Island story.
The Little League coach?
Yeah, my Little League coach. He
was your Little League
yeah.
coach? I know my brother was on his team as well.
And here's the funny part is that, well, maybe not funny, but
you better preface that.
I always was good in practice and horrible in games because I would just like panic and we were like a few games into the season or however many games into the season, and he was like, "You'll never believe who has the best record, the best batting average in the league. It's Eddie Doherty." And I was like, "Oh my God." And then from that day forward, I struck out like every single at bat. And I remember I was at bat and the coach was behind the backstop talking to my friend's father. And my friend's father was like, "How is Eddie Doherty?" And this guy was like, "He used to be our best player. Now he's our worst." And I just like completely struck out again. I just felt so ashamed. But the thing is, he started hating me because of that. And I was never invited to the parties, and he molested kids at these parties. So who knows what kind of bullet I dodged?
You know what scene seemed randomly placed in the movie? It's the one problem I had. It's the only scene I didn't really like, and I think it just was placed in there to kind of have the pacing speed up a little bit.
This better not be the kids yelling in the door slot scene, because I love that.
I know you love that scene. I hated those kids, but I could see why you like it.
Yeah, I like kids making trouble. Oh, the basement scene. Yeah, I have to say the basement scene was not the best either.
Can you? I still don't know what the role of that security guard was. That basically St. Luke finds the parasite in the garbage chute, and the security guard sees him there, and they start fighting, and then St. Luke basically winds up murdering him.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, was he infected, the security guard, or was he just doing his job? Like, it just seems so out of place.
I am not sure about if he was infected or if he was just doing his job.
So what's your theory, if you have one?
My theory is kind of just that I feel like Cronenberg had to get St. Luke alone for him to have the moment where he's running outside and then the pool moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like the first thing that kind of propels him to be alone.
I see. So it's sometimes it's just a trick in screenwriting, is what you're saying.
It's just look, that's just how he made his blood parasite sex sausage. But a couple of good scenes though, like when he goes into that one room and the old guy stands up and he's like,
"Have you met my daughter, Erica? She's a beautiful girl. Come here, Erica. I think you'd really like my daughter, Erica."
It's very creepy.
See, that's where I want to get. That's like my next thing I wrote as a topic of chaos begins and random acts of weirdness.
Oh, go on.
Because there's so many things that just happen towards the end. It's just like pandemonium.
Yeah.
Like you see the kids in the dog leashes.
Oh yeah. You know what that reminded me of, kind of?
What's that?
In The Shining, when
yes,
when you see the bear and he's blowing the man.
Yeah. I wish people knew why this is so funny to me.
Yeah, because Rusty already made that observation to me.
And you said, of course I would say that. Of course I would go there.
Oh, because you look for any excuse to reference the bear.
I love that bear.
You're like, I didn't care for the Roseanne reboot or her politics, but it did remind me of that random scene in Shining where the bear is blowing someone.
Although it's become like sort of it's taken on a life of its own, though. So many people reference that bear, but I liked it when it was Grady on VHS.
Wow, you were really ahead of the curve on that one. You were referencing that bear in the mid 90s. At the latest.
I do recall doing that. I think people would come over to your house to play GoldenEye, and I'd be like, "Did you see that scene in The Shining with the bear blowing the guy?"
You're like, "I noticed you picked Oddjob. It kind of reminds me of that scene in The Shining where the bear is blowing the guy." And you're like, "Well, how does that connect to Oddjob?" You're like, "It seems like something Oddjob might have enjoyed."
I love that.
An image I love is when Dr. St. Luke is running up that hill and then all the residents of the apartment complex come cresting over the hill.
Wait, you jumped to that. I still was bringing up my random weirdness.
Okay, well, you go on then.
Yeah, the guy that mentioned about "Have you met my daughter, Erica?" Didn't that guy look like Tom Noonan?
I feel like he's much older than Tom Noonan.
Well, if Tom Noonan, like kind of like from House of the Devil,
Yeah, I could see
like
that. Yeah.
Rasputin mixed with Tom Noonan.
Wait, did you just say Rasputin?
Yeah, Rasputin.
Do you know that I just finished an 800-page book about him?
Really? I've seen some documentaries on him. It's freaking pretty fascinating.
It is. I just finished the book called Faith, Power, and the Twilight of the Romanovs. Well, it's called Rasputin, Faith, Power, and the Twilight Romanovs. That was a long fucking book.
See, that sounds really interesting, except the turnoff is 800 pages. Like I couldn't do it.
And it was a long 800 pages. I didn't really, I had it on my Kindle, and so it was on the percentage setting. So I didn't really realize until I was too deep in that this was a long book. But it did have a lot of really funny anecdotes about Rasputin and about his relationship with the Tsar or the Tsarina. And it's amazing how basically this homeless guy randomly befriended the most powerful people in Russia. And that friendship led to, if not for that friendship, there never would have been probably the revolution, probably never would have been Stalin. So probably like 30 million people died as a result of this friendship. Who knows how many people will die as a result of this podcast?
And the other weird, and the random weirdness, you know who I liked? I like that gay couple.
Oh.
Do you remember the one? The one that try to get hold of St. Luke, and he goes behind the door and they like peek in the peephole.
That was just a great shot and a great kind of creepy image of people looking at the peephole, and like one of them or both of them are naked. And they're like, "Hey, come outside!" And like, you
want to party?
When the people in this movie are like in the sex zombie mode, but they're friendly, it's very unnerving.
Yeah. It really is. And then finally, like you said, that St. Luke makes his way out of the complex and up the grassy knoll.
Yep.
And it's very chilling. Like, you really feel like his tribulations of like being trapped.
Yeah.
Like he has nowhere to go but retreat back into the establishment and into the pool.
Yeah. Which the pool scene is probably,
I love that scene.
That's a great scene. Probably the most famous scene, I guess.
Yeah, actually, I think I told you that I didn't really know much about the film besides knowing of it, and I knew the pool scene. I actually knew like visually what it looked like. So I guess it's a pretty like iconic scene as far as horror films go. You disagree?
No. I do agree. I liked it. It had a very haunting quality, and pools in general, as seen in horror classics like It Follows or The Mutilator, have a haunting quality when they're shot. You knew I was going to go to that Mutilator reference.
Yeah,
and
less haunting in Mutilator, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it works really well in here. And basically, what happens is St. Luke comes in, and what's the name of the wife of Nicholas?
Janet Tudor
and Barbara Steele are in the pool, kind of beckoning him in, and it just becomes a wild orgy in the pool. And there's also a really great shot of Lynn Lowry in the pool.
Oh, I love I know that's her favorite scene as well, but I love the way that looks.
Yeah, it just looks really cool.
I would want a painting of that hung up in my house somewhere.
I would consider making that the background of my computer. What praise. But yeah, it just looks really cool, and it's a great way to end the film. Actually, that's not the ending. The ending is great too.
But before we go to the ending, in that like wave of ecstasy and madness where they're all attacking St. Luke, and then Lynn Lowry's character like infects him. Did you know that when the people were jumping into the pool and they were stripping off their clothes, do you know a lot of that was the cast and crew?
Oh, yeah.
And did you know that if you look closely enough in the background, you could see David Cronenberg's penis in the background?
Really?
Look for it.
I knew that you could see the ghost of a little boy and a munchkin hanging himself, but I didn't know that you could see David Cronenberg's penis as well. This is a great scene.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Well, not the penis, but like just telling you this, you know what it reminds me of? I know I've told you this before, but it's pretty funny. At our mutual friends when we were children, that Larry.
Mm-hmm.
When we were children, we would watch, not children, when we were teenagers, we would watch movies at his house, and we would watch them in the basement where he had a VCR, but unbeknownst to us, it wasn't unbeknownst, but the VCR was also hooked up to the parents' TV. So we would be in the basement watching, a movie or whatever, and the parents would be usually in their room, and we were watching Pulp Fiction. Do you know the story?
No.
Oh, really?
Well, first of all, how was the TV hooked up to? Was it that rabbit?
I guess it was a rabbit thing.
Remember but remember there was that rabbit device.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they did it, but basically there's two TVs hooked up to one VCR. So if we were watching a movie in the one TV, it was automatically playing on the other TV. So basically we were watching Pulp Fiction. And do you know the scene where Bruce Willis is in the shower? Do you remember it? Kind of. So, and then now let me remind you, this is on VHS too. So so there's a scene where Bruce Willis is in the shower, and I don't remember if it's after something. I forgot. I don't remember the movie that well, to be honest with you. But so we're watching it, and I'm just like to Larry, I'm just like, oh, you can see his penis there, and Larry's just like, no, you can't. I'm just like, yes, you can. Rewind it. So we rewound it, and played the scene again, still looking for his penis. It's like Larry's just like, I don't see it. So we rewound it again and again, and then we started to try to pause it. So we just kept. And this, VHS pausing. So we trying to get the timing right and the graininess. And then unbeknownst to us, the parents were also going through the same ordeal. So they kept seeing that scene being rewound and and paused and everything. And then it hit us. We're like, wait, your parents are watching this. They probably think we're so weird.
Oh my God. Did the parents?
It reminded me of it.
Did the parents?
They never said anything. Never said anything.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
There are so many things from our childhood that parents obviously had to have known and just never said anything.
Oh yeah, of course.
How many times did you leave jerk off material around or something? I've left numerous Victoria's Secret catalogs around.
I mean, I had
where they shouldn't have been.
I had a drawer that was just completely cum shirts, and I thought that my mother who did my laundry just didn't open this drawer. I was like, she has no knowledge of this. And there was one shirt which was an Operation Ivy t-shirt.
Oh my goodness.
The one, the cover of Energy, or also the Jumping Man.
Yeah, the Jumping.
We're not jumping, whatever he's doing. The funny thing is, okay, I'm gonna try to tell the story really quickly.
Okay.
Here we go again.
All of us had that shirt, and Operation Ivy was kind of the first band you would get into, getting into punk in that era. But they also, you get out of them pretty quick, which is ironic since they're one of the better band. I can actually listen to Operation Ivy now, where I can't listen to the bands that we got into after them.
Do you think there's somebody out there now getting into punk music by discovering Operation Ivy? Do you think that's still a thing?
I bet they still do discover Operation Ivy as second step.
I saw somebody post on it was either Imgur or Reddit that they discovered a Dead Kennedys record and bought it at a thrift store or something. So somebody discovered Dead Kennedys recently.
Wow. They'd be better off discovering Operation Ivy. But I actually still, some Dead Kennedy songs I still kind of listen to.
Wait, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Did you know Ray's guitar broke?
Oh my God.
Ray's guitar broke.
Okay, so the Operation Ivy t-shirt, when I was in the band Watership Down, we realized that we all had that Operation Ivy t-shirt, and we all were using it as a cum shirt.
I'm excluding I had Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, and we had one night where we decided to bond, and it was a whole day. And because we had just gotten a new member of the band, Adam, and so we're like, let's all hang out. My father took us to see Les Mis. And later that night, we all jerked off to a Cinemax style movie. All of us in the same room, and all wearing the Operation Ivy t-shirt.
Who am I?
And you know what the weird thing is? Oh, go on.
The story has, the story has an epilogue that takes place a few years later, like a decade later. I don't know if you want to jump in now or after.
Yeah, let me just say, like, so many people when they hear that story have so much disdain for you or for things that event. But I feel like you're not the only person to do that. Like, I feel like it's got to be a common thing for kids.
Oh, it's so common for kids and people who are 17 to jerk off with their male friends.
Is it really? But is it a bonding experience, or just like, were you ashamed afterwards?
No, it was a bonding experience because we're all laughing so hard that we did it. It was just like a funny thing to do. And that shirt, just not to get gross, but it was just covered in fucking white comets, little comets of jizzy memories. But so now let's fast forward 10 years. And I was, at this point living in LA, I mean, deep into living in LA. And I was coming back to Long Island, and my mother was terminally ill with basically like a Lou Gehrig's disease style disease. And my father had health problems too. And we had like a home health aide. Eventually we had a good home health aide, but this was one of the early ones, and they were all bad in their own way. And this lady was, do you remember my neighbors across the street, Rose and Tom?
Was that the World War II?
Yeah, the World War II veteran.
Yeah.
This was one of their friends who was like an old lady who's just not qualified at all to be like a home health aide.
Oh boy.
And I remember I was coming back from LA, and I'm like coming down the road, walking from Wantagh train station, like dragging my roller bag, and like the wheels just making sort of loud noise on the street, like and I was like walking slow. I was just like, oh God, this is such a grim like setting to enter. Like, here I go again. And I come in my house, and the home health aide is like, you must be Edward. Sorry, I'm wearing your shirt. And she's wearing the Operation Ivy shirt, which is still just covered in cum stains from a decade earlier. And I was like, oh my God.
That thing must have smelled so bad.
I can't believe that was the shirt she chose to wear. She could have worn so many punk shirts.
The smell of mildew, old cum, and shame. She was wearing it.
Yep. And it's just coming at me in the form of an Italian lady with white hair and glasses who was like 70. Edward, you must be Edward.
Mamma mia.
And that's Shivers, everyone.
And that's Shivers. Hey, that's good though, because it's about sex.
Yeah.
Go on.
The last scene though.
Oh yeah.
Just explain it, I guess. You'll probably could sum it up nicely.
Yeah, the last scene is kind of your classic scene from a movie like this, with its own kind of twist on it. But it's like it's funny because you see Dr. St. Luke and the nurse getting in a car together, and now they're kind of wearing like swinger-esque clothing, and they're driving off. And then there's a radio report saying that like a plague is hitting Montreal.
Stay tuned for further details on Mediascope.
So it's kind of like, the same sort of ending a lot of these movies have, but it had a cool feel. And the score from music supervisor Ivan Reitman is like super discordant and creates a very haunting quality.
I love the music with the backdrop of them driving off because they look so reserved as they're leaving that complex.
Yeah, and they're just gonna fuck up a storm, and civilization's gonna come crashing down.
Yeah, but yeah, great ending, and definitely lasting impact. Yeah, the monster within. We all have that fear. Did you ever have fears of that, of like anything inside you?
Oh, who doesn't all the time?
Not so much for me. I did always have a fear of either having a tapeworm or being poisoned. Such two random fears and phobias.
Yeah.
But do you remember, I think it was in either the 70s or 80s, it was maybe a repeat thing where like aspirin bottles were tampered with.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then there was like a reoccurrence of that. And for some reason, I equated that with food. So I was very afraid to eat for like a week. And the only thing I would eat was vegetable thins, those crackers, if you remember them. And I would make my mom eat one first. Even if the package was already opened and I ate it the night before, like I would make her eat one first. And she'd be like, I don't want to eat any more of these crackers. Like,
I think
they're fine.
I think we've already mentioned on the podcast how your mother served as your royal taster.
Yes, she did. And so,
but happy ending.
But what was your thing?
What was my thing? What?
Your fear of the monster within, or what did you have a phobia? Of anything inside?
Just any. I have it all the time, you know. Like whenever my mother's disease first manifests itself with like a loss of balance, and I've always been clumsy. So whenever I stumble, I just think, well, here it is, the beginning of the end.
You mentioned to me one thing, a song that reminded you of the film.
Yes.
Tell me about it and then take us out with it.
Okay. I don't know who first turned me on to the song, which is called Shivers. And it is by the Boys Next Door, which I believe Nick Cave, who I barely know Nick Cave. Like for someone that's
personally.
No, I don't know him at all personally. I don't know his music. And I never saw that movie he made. For someone who's into music and movies, I know as little about Nick Cave as you possibly can. But this song I love. And it's called Shivers. And I think we should just end the show and hear that whole song.
We'll see you next week.
Well, not next week, because the show comes out the 1st and 15th.
Yes.
So we'll be back on the 1st of July with a guest. And we're always wrong about what movie we're going to talk about, but I think it's going to be Howling 2.
You heard it here first. Well, you wouldn't hear it anywhere else anyway. So, of course, you're going to hear it here first. Play this song. I have nothing else to say. Play it.
Okay, here it goes.
Bye.
Time is 5:26 a.m. This is Gerald Keyes with a Mediascope Sunrise News Bulletin. There is still no confirmation by Montreal City Police concerning concerning alleged reports of a citywide wave of violent sexual assaults. The assaults, believed to have originated in the vicinity of Starliner Island, began late last night and have spread with increasing frequency this morning. Reports of the attacks have been termed irresponsible and hysterical by a Montreal City Police spokesman. Stay tuned for further details on Mediascope News at 6.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.